My electric toothbrush stopped working. I said it loud enough for the dinner table to hear. No one looked up. You're in the basement. You probably overloaded the circuit, my dad muttered without glancing at me, his mouth full of steak he didn't buy with his own money. I swallowed my pride again. The outlet doesn't even work. Well, maybe next time don't use up all the utilities, my brother Aaron said, chuckling as he leaned back in the padded chair, lounging in a soft hoodie I knew I'd bought last Christmas. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from, and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. He got the master bedroom upstairs, 2 walk-in closets, his own bathroom, a flat-screen TV mounted on the wall. Me, a mattress in a basement with exposed pipes, and a portable heater I wasn't allowed to use past 9 p.m. To save electricity, they were charging me $900 a month, utilities not included. You should be grateful we even let you stay here, Dad added, cutting his food aggressively. A lot of fathers wouldn't. Oh, I'm grateful, I said flatly. Very. No one caught the edge in my voice. Or maybe they just didn't care. I pushed my empty plate away. I wasn't invited to eat with them. I made my own cheap food and took it back to the cold basement most nights. But tonight, they'd made enough to make the house smell like rosemary and garlic, and I was starving. Aaron chuckled again and said, maybe you can ask your friends at work to help you fix your toothbrush. Oh, wait. He smiled. They always brought up how I worked at a diner downtown. They thought it was humiliating. She probably can't afford a new one, Aaron muttered under his breath. I can hear you, I said, standing up. Dad finally looked at me. His eyes didn't show concern, only irritation. Then maybe stop acting like a burden and start pulling your weight. I already paid for this month, I said through clenched teeth. We raised you, he snapped. That wasn't free. I didn't reply. There were too many words trapped in my chest. Too much history. Too many years of being the disappointment, the failure, the one who wasn't smart enough, pretty enough, ambitious enough. Aaron was their golden boy. He dropped out of college twice, crashed 2 cars, and didn't pay a dime toward the mortgage. He played video games all night and slept till noon. But I was the problem. I stepped down the stairs and back into my space, if you could even call it that. The air was damp. I flicked the light switch and nothing happened. Again, I sat on the mattress, exhaled hard, and stared at the peeling paint on the concrete wall. They didn't know what I'd done. Not yet. 2 days earlier, I'd signed a deed. A big one. Lakefront property, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, fireplace, modern kitchen, floor-to-ceiling windows. Mine, not inherited, not gifted, not shared. I earned every cent through 2 jobs, small freelance gigs, living like a ghost, skipping everything from takeout to dental appointments to save up. And now, I had something they didn't. But I wasn't going to tell them. Not yet, because the storm was coming. The next morning, I walked upstairs to make a coffee. My coffee machine had been borrowed from the basement by Aaron. He was on the couch scrolling through his phone. Dad was reading the paper. I opened the cabinet and found it empty, not a single mug. You have your own space downstairs. Use it, Aaron said, not even looking up. That coffee machine was mine, I said. Dad scoffed. Everything in this house belongs to the family. You don't just get to claim things because you brought them in. Even if I bought them with my own money? Don't raise your voice. I didn't. I just stepped back, turned around, and walked out. I didn't say where I was going. I didn't say anything at all. I drove straight to the lake house. And for the first time in years, I breathed. The air smelled different out there. Quieter, cleaner. The real estate agent had left the keys in a lockbox. I opened the door and stepped inside barefoot. Hardwood floors. A huge, open living room with tall windows. Sunlight poured in. The walls were white, untouched. The air was cool but welcoming. I walked to the deck and stared out at the water. The lake glittered beneath the sky like a secret I finally got to keep. Then, I did something I hadn't done in years. I smiled. I stood on my own property. My name was on the deed. Mine alone. And I knew exactly what I was going to do next. Back at the house that night, Aaron had the audacity to knock on the basement door. I opened it. What? He leaned on the frame. Dad said you didn't pay for utilities this month. I paid rent. He shrugged. You know that doesn't cover everything. You use the washer, the water heater, I used less than both of you combined. I snapped. Still, he smirked. House rules. I tilted my head. You've never paid a dime in your life. He grinned and leaned closer. Because I'm worth it. I wanted to punch him. I didn't. I didn't have to. Because in just a few days, they'd be eating their words. And I'd be drinking champagne on my deck while they sat in the same broken chairs in the same dying house, wondering how the failure turned out to be the one they couldn't keep beneath them anymore. 3 days later, I packed quietly at night. No goodbyes, no explanations. I stuffed my worn hoodie, 2 pairs of jeans, 3 shirts, and a small collection of books into a duffel. That was all I owned that wasn't already broken, borrowed, or mocked. I slipped out of the basement at 1:30 a.m. No one heard me leave. The drive to the lake house was quiet. My phone buzzed a few times, Dad asking where I was. Aaron's name flashed once. I ignored it. When I pulled into the driveway, the house looked almost surreal under the stars, like it didn't belong to someone like me, but it did. I stepped inside, dropped my bag, and breathed again. This time, it felt final. The next morning, I got up early and went into town. I bought groceries, real groceries. I grabbed new mugs, towels, even flowers. I'd never owned flowers before. I took pictures of the house, framed the lake in every shot, posted one to social media with the caption, "New Beginnings." And then I waited. It didn't take long. Aaron texted first. Aaron, new beginnings? LOL. Whose boat did you hitch a ride on? Me. Mine. Deed says so. 10 seconds. That's how long it took before the phone rang. It was Dad. I let it go to voicemail. Then came the knock. I looked through the peephole. Dad. Aaron. I opened the door slowly. Dad stepped in first, eyes darting around like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. You moved? No, I said calmly. I left. Aaron followed in behind him, scoffing. Whose house is this? Mine. Dad gave a small, humorless laugh. Okay, be serious. I walked into the kitchen, grabbed the folder, pulled out the deed, and slid it across the counter toward him. My name's right there. Owner, mortgages in my name. So are the bills. So is everything. Silence. Then Aaron let out a sharp, confused laugh. You? How? I worked. Dad snatched the paper, reading over it again and again. You can't even afford the electric bill back home. You're telling me. I'm telling you, I cut in, that charging your daughter $900 to sleep in a basement while your son took everything for free? It didn't stop me. Dad's face went pale. We let you stay. You profited off me, I snapped. You didn't help me. You used me. You're being ungrateful. No, I said, voice cold. You're finally seeing I don't need you. Aaron scoffed. You think you're better than us now? I know I'm freer than you'll ever be. They stood there for a long minute, not saying a word, just processing. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about freedom. They expected me to crawl forever. But I'd learned to walk in silence, and when I ran far. Dad finally tossed the deed back onto the counter. Don't come crawling back when this goes under. Aaron followed him out, muttering something bitter under his breath. The door closed. I locked it behind them. 2 weeks later, I was sitting on the deck when a real estate agent's number called. I picked up. We've got interest in the lake house listing. I blinked. Listing? She paused. Your father just contacted our office. He said you gave him power of attorney to list the house for sale? I nearly dropped my phone. What? My voice was cold, firm. Number. He does not have power of attorney. This is my house. I never signed anything. The agent went quiet. Okay, I figured. He was pushy. Sorry, I just wanted to double check. My jaw tightened. Thank you for calling. I drove to their house that same night, walked through the front door like I still lived there. Dad was watching the game. Aaron was passed out on the couch, half-eaten pizza in his lap. I stood between them, holding the legal document I had printed and notarized earlier that day. I revoked your access to everything tied to me. That includes my credit, my records, and any attempt to use my name or property for your benefit. Dad looked up. Excuse me? You tried to list my house. He flinched. You had no right. Don't talk to me like, I'm not your tenant. I'm not your punching bag. I'm not your charity case. I'm your daughter. and you treated me like a burden. You were a burden. That did it. I stared at him, dead in the eyes. I made it out because you pushed me down, and I'll never forget that. I turned to leave. He stood up, voice rising. You walk out that door, don't come back. I looked over my shoulder. I didn't plan to. I drove back in silence. And when I got home to my own warm, light-filled house, I realized something strange. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I was free. A week passed. No calls, no texts, nothing. For the first time in my life, the silence felt like peace, until the letter arrived. I opened the envelope and unfolded the paper. Thick, heavy, formal. A law firm's header at the top. Notice of intent to dispute ownership. My hands froze. Below it, Dad's name. He was trying to challenge the lake house ownership. He was claiming I bought it with his help, that he had invested in the down payment, that I used his address and therefore, as a family contribution, he deserved a share. My heart pounded as I read the ridiculous claims, but I didn't panic. I took a breath, and I called someone I'd been quietly working with for months, Monica Reeves, my lawyer. I'd hired her back when I started saving for the house to protect myself from exactly this kind of thing. When I called, she picked up on the first ring. I knew they'd pull something, she said calmly. Send me the letter. I'll handle it. That evening, I sat in the living room, staring at the lake. It shimmered with light as the sun dipped low. Peaceful, untouchable. And yet, there was this fire building inside me again. I thought distance would be enough, that walking away would end the cycle. But my father didn't want closure. He wanted control. He couldn't stand the idea of me owning something he couldn't manipulate, that his disappointment of a daughter had something better than him. And now, he wanted to take it. Not because he needed it, but because he couldn't accept that I'd won. Monica called me back 2 days later. Her tone was sharp, legal, clean. I filed a formal cease and desist. We're protected. You've got full documentation. They have no case. What happens now? I asked. She hesitated. If I were you, I'd cut all contact. This won't stop unless you draw a line. The next morning, I did something I never imagined I would. I wrote a letter, not out of anger, out of finality. Dear Dad, I received your lawyer's letter. You lied in it. You didn't contribute to the house. You didn't help me earn it. You didn't even give me a bed that didn't smell like mold. You made me pay rent to live in your basement. You made me feel like I was worthless. And still, I survived. This house is mine, legally, fully, and you will never take it from me. This is my last communication. I do not wish to hear from you again. I am not your investment. I am not your failure. Mara. I printed it, drove to the city, slipped it into the mailbox of their crumbling brick home, the same one where I once begged to be treated like a person. Then I left without knocking. I didn't need to be heard anymore. I needed to be done. Back at the lake house, I felt it happen. Something cracked. The part of me that once clung to the hope that maybe, just maybe, he'd change. That maybe one day I'd be invited upstairs. That maybe someone would say, we were wrong about you. But that version of me was gone now. The only person who ever needed to believe in me was me. And she finally did. 2 months passed. I hadn't heard from my father. Not a word from Aaron either. But I wasn't naive. Silence didn't mean peace. Not in families like mine. It meant planning. So I kept moving. Got a second job, this time remote work and design. Freelanced for startups. Slowly furnished the lake house with thrifted charm. A shelf of books. A deep green velvet couch. A wind chime on the back porch. My world wasn't loud anymore. It was mine. Then came the knock. I wasn't expecting anyone. I peered through the peephole. Aaron. I didn't open it at first. He knocked again, louder this time. I finally opened the door, just a crack. What do you want? His eyes darted past me into the house. Dad's in the hospital, he said flatly. My expression didn't change. Is he okay? He had a mild stroke, he said. He'll recover, but he keeps asking for you. I waited. There it was, the angle. Aaron shifted his stance. Look, he's not doing great. You could at least... Let me guess, I cut in. He wants to make peace? Aaron shrugged. You're still his daughter. No, I said quietly. I was the daughter when he needed someone to pay rent. Now I'm just the one who owns what he can't touch? His jaw clenched. You're being cold. I leaned against the door frame. Number I'm being? Done. You think this house makes you better than us? I think earning what I have means more than taking what I didn't deserve. Aaron looked away. He's got bills. We're trying to figure out. Ah, I said. There it is. I crossed my arms. You're not here because he misses me. You're here because the house is paid off and you think I've got savings. He didn't deny it. And that silence, that was my closure. Later that night, I stood on the deck with a glass of tea, staring at the lake. The air was cooler now, leaves beginning to turn. My phone buzzed with a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. I played it. It was Dad. His voice was hoarse. Mara! I don't know if you'll listen to this, but you were never supposed to get that house. I know how that sounds. You scared me, the way you kept going, even when we tried to break you. And I didn't know what to do with that. I was ashamed. Of myself, not you. I wish I'd been a better man. Maybe next life. He hung up. I didn't cry. I didn't feel guilt. I felt free. Because I wasn't angry anymore, I just understood. A week later, I got a call from the hospital. He was stable. Aaron had left town to stay with some cousin. No one else was helping. They asked if I could come sign discharge papers. I did. I didn't say a word to him, just signed, made sure he had a cab, and walked out. Because forgiveness isn't about letting them off the hook. It's about cutting the rope they tied around your neck. The lake house felt different when I came back. Warmer, quieter, like it was proud of me too. I didn't escape. I rebuilt. And now, I was finally living. 6 months later, the house was filled with light. I had music playing low, a pot of stew simmering on the stove, and my dog, yes, I adopted one, snoozing near the fireplace. I was reviewing a new freelance contract when I got a message request on social media. Aaron. Dad passed this morning. I figured you should know. I stared at the message for a full minute. No emotion came. Not shock, not sorrow, not relief, just stillness. Then another message popped up. He left a letter for you, said it was important. I didn't respond. That night, I drove into town, parked by the hospital, and asked at the front desk. A nurse handed me a small envelope with my name in shaky writing. Back at the house, I sat on the deck, candle burning beside me, and opened it. Inside was a single sheet of lined paper. Mara, I never knew how to love you the way you deserved. I mistook your independence for rebellion. I thought your silence meant weakness. I was wrong. You didn't become who you are because of me. You became in spite of me. I'm sorry I wasn't man enough to say it to your face. If you ever forgive me, I hope it's because you realize you were always the strongest one in the house. Dad, I folded the letter slowly, tucked it in a drawer, and I didn't cry. Because he was right. I didn't become this version of myself because of him. I became her because no one else believed I could. A month later, I hosted a small dinner. My coworkers came, a neighbor from down the road, even the old woman who ran the corner thrift shop I always visited. No blood relatives, just people who chose to be kind. People who saw me. As we laughed around the table, someone raised a glass and said, "To Mara, the one who made it out." I smiled. Not because I wanted to prove them wrong, but because I no longer needed to. I finally felt full. Not with revenge, not with rage, but with real peace. One day, while walking near the lake with my dog, a little girl ran up to me. "Is this your house?" she asked, pointing. "Yeah," I said with a smile. "It is." "Wow." My brother said only rich people live by the lake. I crouched down and smiled at her. "Tell your brother sometimes the quiet ones become the loudest winners." She giggled, then ran back to her bike. I looked back at the house, and for the first time in my life, I knew. They buried me in a basement, but I bloomed on a lakeshore.
"You married him?" My mother barked, tossing her glass onto the dining table with a loud clink that sliced through the tense silence like a razor. My name is Claire Dawson, and that day, sitting at the same family table I grew up around, I learned that blood doesn't mean loyalty, especially when money's involved. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos? And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us, what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. Across the table, my father shook his head slowly, disappointment carved into every inch of his face. "You had offers, Claire. Decent men from good families. And you married a broke contractor with dirt under his nails. I blinked. My chest felt like it was caving in. My husband, Liam Hayes, stood next to me silently, gripping my hand tight under the table. He didn't say a word, didn't flinch, just stared back at them with eyes that said, "You don't know a thing about me. You're ruining your future," my sister Maddie spat. "No trust fund. No inheritance. No safety net. When he leaves you or cheats or fails, you'll come crawling back." And then my mother said it. "You're no longer welcome in this house, Claire." I paused, looked at each of them. My older brother Dean wouldn't meet my eyes. My aunt sipped her wine like nothing had happened. My father had already turned away. And I stood up. "I won't be back," I said calmly, grabbing Liam's hand and walking straight out the front door, into the cold night, into the unknown, into whatever the hell came next. 5 days passed. And on that 5th day, while I was watching a late sunset from the balcony of a quiet hilltop villa an hour outside Seattle, sipping coffee in one of Liam's oversized sweatshirts, my phone buzzed. "Maddie." "Claire, can we talk?" Then a call from my mother. Then Dean. One after another. I didn't answer any of them. Not after what happened the night they kicked us out. Not after what I found out. And certainly not after what I did. Flashback to that same night, barely an hour after we left my parents' house. We were in Liam's old pickup truck, driving back to our apartment. My mascara was smudged, hands shaking. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I never thought they'd." Liam pulled over. He didn't look angry. He looked calm, too calm. "Claire," he said gently, turning toward me, "you know I don't care about any of that." I nodded, tears pooling in my eyes. "I just hate that you had to see them treat me like that." And then he did something that stopped my heart. He pulled a velvet box from his coat pocket. Not a ring, but a key. "I wasn't going to show you this until next week," he said. "But maybe now's the time." He handed me the key. "What's this?" "Come with me," he said. 10 minutes later, we pulled through the gates of a private estate, acres of trees, a long winding driveway, and a house that looked like something out of a magazine. Modern, isolated, breathtaking. "What is this?" I asked, stunned. He parked. "My house," Liam said casually. "One of them." I turned to him like he was speaking another language. "You told me you lived in a one-bedroom in the city." "I did," he said. "For you. I needed to know if you were marrying me. Not what I have." I froze. "I'm the majority owner of Hayes Group," he continued. "Real estate development. Private. We never attached my name publicly." I felt the ground shift under me. My heart pounded in my chest. He looked at me with those same steady eyes. "Claire, you passed the test your family failed." Back to the present. When they found out who Liam really was, his net worth, the estates, the land under their own offices that he secretly owned, they panicked. Suddenly, I was valuable again. Suddenly, I was missed. Suddenly, Liam was handsome and hardworking and just misunderstood. They didn't know that 2 nights ago, I'd already filed a formal request to remove them from the family business trust. That I'd instructed the lawyers to cut every financial tie. That I'd recorded the way they humiliated me and sent it anonymously to the board of the nonprofit my father chaired. Or that I had donated $200,000 from my private account, in Liam's name, to the women's shelter my mother always claimed to support, but never gave a dime to. And they definitely didn't know what was about to happen the next day at the estate's open house event, when Maddie, Dad, and my mother would all show up in designer clothes, just to be greeted by me as the new co-owner of Hayes Legacy Estates. And I had something planned, a public surprise. The next morning came dressed in gold. I stood on the second-floor balcony of the estate, the wind barely moving the white silk curtains behind me. I sipped my coffee slowly, watching as black SUVs pulled into the driveway one by one, like clockwork. I didn't need to check the guest list. I already knew who they were. They'd come. All of them. Even the ones who swore they'd never step foot near that man's property. Maddie was first to get out. A cream-colored blazer clung to her figure, her heels clicking against the cobblestone path like she owned the place. Her husband trailed behind, already on his phone. Then my mother. Face tight, hair sprayed into its usual lacquered helmet. And lastly, Dad. His navy suit was sharp, but his eyes looked tired, nervous. I didn't go down to greet them right away. I watched them from the balcony for a while, arms folded, heart strangely calm. Still want to go through with it? Liam asked gently behind me, his voice soft like a question but steady like a vow. I turned to face him. I've never been more sure. He nodded once and kissed my temple. Then let's begin. Downstairs, a small crowd had gathered. Investors, agents, a few local press members invited under the guise of a real estate feature. Everyone was dressed for money. Champagne was already being poured. I came down the grand staircase in a simple but stunning black dress, my heels silent against the marble. The room quieted when they saw me, elegant, poised, not the girl they kicked out 5 days ago. My mother blinked, as if her eyes betrayed her. Maddie's jaw tightened. Claire? I kept my smile polite. Thank you all for coming to the open estate preview. My husband and I are thrilled to finally unveil Hayes Legacy Estates. Dad took a half step forward. You own this place? I turned to him, tilting my head. Well, yes. Technically, Liam built it. I just added my name to the ownership yesterday. Maddie gave a short laugh, sharp and awkward. So, this isn't just some fluke? This is real. Oh, it's very real. My mother opened her mouth, probably to pivot into some form of fake apology, but I raised a hand gently. I think there's something you should all see. I nodded to Liam. A projection screen lowered behind me, and within seconds, a video began playing. Their voices echoed through the speakers, recorded that night at the dinner table. You had offers, Claire. Decent men. No future with a contractor. You're no longer welcome in this house. The crowd went still. My mother went pale. Claire, Dad muttered under his breath, stepping closer. You recorded us? I needed to remember what it felt like to be discarded, so that when you inevitably came running back, I looked at each of them slowly. I'd know not to fall for it. The press had started filming. Maddie hissed. You invited reporters? I met her eyes. No, you did. You posted the RSVP link publicly. Someone gasped. And that's when I delivered the final blow. Before you accuse me of being cruel, let me remind you, I begged all of you to see Liam for who he was. Not for what he didn't show. You laughed, mocked, kicked me out. So don't stand here now pretending this reunion is about love. You didn't find your way back to me. You found your way to his wealth. The tension was suffocating. Liam stood beside me now, calm as ever. This estate will host quarterly charity events, free legal counseling for evicted tenants, and job training for single parents. My mother looked like she'd swallowed glass. That's ridiculous. What does that have to do with real estate? Everything, I said softly. We build homes, not just houses. And we don't build for people who break their own. Maddie suddenly snapped. So this is it? You cut us off because of one mistake? We're family. I took a breath and steadied my voice. I didn't cut you off because of one mistake. I cut you off because you revealed your truth the second money was off the table. There was no dramatic exit. No slamming doors or screaming matches. Just silence. Pure, heavy silence as they realized I wasn't bluffing. That the door they slammed in my face was locked from the inside now. That I didn't need their permission anymore. Not to love. Not to succeed. And definitely not to forgive. Liam led me away, fingers laced with mine. As we walked back into the estate, I felt something strange in my chest. Not rage, not pride. Just peace. 5 days ago, I left my parents' home with nothing. Today, I didn't walk back in with money. I walked in with truth. And I wasn't giving that up for anyone. That night, after the estate event, Liam and I sat on the rooftop terrace, a blanket around our shoulders and the lights of the city twinkling far below us. I should have felt proud. I should have felt victorious. But all I felt was drained. Not broken, just hollow. You okay? Liam asked softly, brushing my hair away from my face. I nodded, leaning into his shoulder. Yeah, just tired. And I was. Tired of pretending I didn't care. Tired of replaying their words in my head. Tired of being the girl who always tried to please a family that never truly saw her. The silence between us was peaceful until my phone buzzed. I hesitated, then picked it up. A text from Dean. Claire, I didn't know they were going to kick you out.
Please talk to me.
I didn't say anything that night because I didn't want to make things worse. I stared at the screen. Then another message came through. Maddie's not letting this go. She's furious.
She's planning something.
I don't know what, but I heard her say your name when she was talking to Mom this morning. Just be careful. My stomach tightened. Liam read the messages over my shoulder. Let her come, he said calmly. We're not scared of temper tantrums. But deep down, I knew Maddie's tantrums didn't look like yelling or door slamming. They looked like manipulation, gaslighting, vicious smiles, and sweet words laced with poison. And I had a feeling she was about to prove me right. The very next morning, I opened my email to find a message from the Seattle Herald. Subject line, urgent. Statement requested regarding recent allegations. My heart dropped. Inside was a forwarded draft of a tip received from an anonymous family source, alleging that Liam's construction company was under federal investigation for money laundering and tax fraud. It was a lie, a vicious, disgusting lie. And I didn't need a signed name to know who sent it. I slammed the laptop shut. Baby, Liam said from the doorway, instantly reading my face. What happened? I looked up at him with trembling hands. They're trying to destroy you. He pulled me into his arms, but I couldn't relax. Not yet. Because this wasn't just a rumor. This could ruin us. Our name. Our reputation. Everything we'd spent years building with honesty and sweat. And just like that, the peace from the estate evaporated. By noon, the press was calling. By 2 p.m., 3 of our investors pulled out to reassess public risk. And by 5 p.m., I was sitting across from my lawyer, eyes burning. You want to sue your sister for defamation? He asked slowly. I nodded.
No.
I want to expose her. Every dirty thing she's done. Every lie. Every smear. I want her to learn. You don't play with fire when you've drenched yourself in gasoline. Liam watched me from across the table, his expression unreadable. And when we left that meeting, we didn't go home. We drove to the city. To a penthouse Maddie once bragged about buying with her own hard-earned money, though everyone in the family knew it came from Dad's secret fund. Liam stayed in the car. I knocked. Maddie opened the door like she expected me. Here to beg me to take the story down? She asked, smiling. It's already out. Half the blogs are sharing it. Took me 10 minutes. I stepped inside without permission. You don't know who you're playing with, I said quietly. You think because you can write a few anonymous emails you've won. I have won, she said smugly. You're not cut out for this world, Claire. You never were. You got lucky. But luck runs out. I looked around her apartment. Everything in it reeked of desperation. Designer things she couldn't afford, fake elegance, empty wine glasses, broken relationships hidden behind Instagram filters. You tried to ruin the only person who ever loved me, I said. You hurt him. And for what? To feel important again. Her smile faltered. You're pathetic, I whispered. And I'm done being nice. She laughed, but there was a nervous edge now. What, are you going to sue me? Drag me through court?
No.
I already did something better. She blinked. I pulled out a flash drive from my purse and set it on her table. Your husband, I said quietly, has been having an affair. For 9 months. With your yoga instructor. Maddie's face collapsed. Don't look so shocked. I kept my mouth shut. I watched you parade him around. I didn't say a word. But when you came after my husband, you crossed a line. She lunged at me, trying to grab the flash drive, but I was already out the door. Claire, she screamed behind me. You can't do this. I turned back once. I already did. And I left her there, screaming, alone, betrayed. Exactly the way she left me. 2 days passed. Maddie went completely silent.
No threats.
No texts. No social media posts. Nothing. But her silence wasn't peaceful. It was loud, suspicious. The kind of silence that always came before something nasty. I didn't have to wait long. On the third morning, while Liam and I were having coffee on the terrace, his phone rang.
It was his lawyer this time.
He stepped away to take the call. A few minutes later, he came back inside, and I could tell something was wrong. "What happened?" I asked. He handed me the phone. The lawyer's voice was grim. "We received a sudden inquiry from the IRS. A formal audit request. It's random, technically, but based on timing? Someone submitted a complaint." "Maddie," I said flatly. Liam nodded. "She's digging deeper. She wants to bury us." My heart pounded. My family had humiliated me, cut me off, tried to ruin the one good thing in my life, and now they were trying to destroy his business too? I wasn't going to let that happen. That night, I opened my laptop and dug out everything I had: emails, voice memos, even old text threads between my father and his silent partners. He'd once bragged about hiding money through shell companies to avoid tax on commercial real estate while sipping wine at a New Year's dinner. I had proof. Names.
Dates.
Numbers. I never imagined using them. But if they wanted to drag us through the dirt, I was done protecting their secrets. I drove alone to a small building on 5th and Kennedy, handed the envelope to a federal agent, and walked out with a weight lifted off my chest. It wasn't just revenge anymore. It was justice. The next day, the chaos began. News broke of an anonymous tip sent to the authorities, triggering a deeper investigation into my father's real estate dealings. His partners started panicking. Someone leaked a few emails. His name hit the headlines. Dawson Realty under federal review, multiple entities tied to tax avoidance. Maddie must have seen it. My phone rang just after 11 p.m. I didn't pick up, but she didn't stop. 35 missed calls. I sat on the bed, staring at my phone, numb. She had thrown fire at my life. I had simply held up a mirror. Later that week, a letter arrived in our mailbox, handwritten, no return address. "Claire, you've made your point. Congratulations. You destroyed your own blood. I hope it was worth it."
Mom.
I folded the letter quietly, placed it in a drawer, and walked out to join Liam in the garden. "Everything okay?" he asked. I looked at him. At the man who never once made me question my worth. Who stood beside me even when the people who raised me turned their backs. "Yeah," I whispered. "They can say whatever they want now. I'm finally free." He took my hand and didn't let go. But I knew it wasn't over. There was still one person I hadn't heard from, and I knew exactly where to find him. I found my father exactly where I expected him, sitting alone in his office on the top floor of Dawson Realty's downtown building. The company name had already been pulled down from the lobby wall. The tension in the building was heavy, like everyone knew something was collapsing, but didn't know how to stop it. He looked up when I entered. No secretary. No smile. Just gray in his beard that wasn't there a month ago, and eyes that had finally lost their shine. "Claire," he said, almost relieved. "You came." I didn't respond. I just pulled the chair out across from him and sat down. He studied me for a long moment. "I know what you did." "Which part?" I asked. "The part where I defended my husband, or the part where I didn't let you bury him like you tried to bury me?" His lips pressed together, but he didn't deny it. I waited. Finally, he spoke. "You made your point. Maddie's losing it. Your mother refuses to leave her bedroom. Dean won't return my calls. You tore the family apart." "No," I said calmly. "You did that. The night you told me I was no longer welcome, because I didn't fit into your mold. Because Liam didn't meet your expectations. That's when you tore it apart." He ran a hand down his face. "You don't understand. I was trying to protect you. By mocking me? By kicking me out? By helping Maddie file fake financial complaints against my husband." His silence said everything. "I used to look up to you," I whispered. "Even when you were cold. Even when you made me feel like a shadow. I thought there was a reason for it. I thought someday I'd be enough." He looked away. "But now I see it clearly. You don't love. You control. And when you lost that control over me, you lashed out." His hands curled into fists. "You think you know everything now, Just because you married rich? No, I said, my voice steady. I know everything now because I opened my eyes. And I finally saw the truth. I stood up. I didn't come here to argue. I came here to say goodbye. He blinked. Claire, I'm starting a new fund, I continued, ignoring the pleading in his tone. For women like me, women disowned by the people who were supposed to love them. It'll be backed by Liam's firm and mine. Because I'm building something too now. Without you. He stood too desperate. Claire, I made mistakes. But I'm still your father. And you'll always be that. But from this point forward, you're nothing more than a chapter 1 survived. I walked out of that office with my head held high. Not out of spite. Not for revenge. For freedom. For peace. For every time I bit my tongue to keep the family together while they pulled me apart. That weekend, Liam and I stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony of our first women's housing project. Reporters took pictures. Supporters clapped. A few old faces showed up in the crowd, some family friends who'd quietly cut ties with my parents. But none of it mattered. Because when Liam squeezed my hand and whispered, "You did this," I smiled. I did. I had walked through betrayal, humiliation, and loss. And I didn't come out broken. I came out unstoppable.